installed security cameras in my house because I wanted to feel safe, not because I thought something would actually happen. Living alone has a way of making small sounds feel bigger than they really are. And for weeks, everything worked perfectly. Every movement recorded, every moment saved, until one night, I got a notification. At first, it didn't seem important, just a simple message saying my cameras had gone offline for about an hour, something that could easily be explained by a weak connection or a system glitch. But the next morning, when I checked the footage and saw what happened, right after they came back online, I realized something that still doesn't feel real. Someone had been inside my house during the exact hour my cameras stopped recording. This happened a few months ago when I was living alone in a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind of place where nothing unusual ever really happens. Installing security cameras at the time felt more like a precaution than a necessity. And at first, everything about the system actually made me feel more comfortable. I could check every corner of my house straight from my phone anytime I wanted. But then one night, something small, something easy to ignore, turned into something much darker, because that one missing hour in the footage wasn't random. It wasn't a glitch. It was perfectly timed. And by the time I understood what it meant, I was already looking at footage. That proved someone had been walking through my house while I was asleep, just a few feet away. I had cameras set up in almost every important area of my house: the front door, the backyard, the living room, and especially the hallway that led directly to my bedroom. That was the one place I always wanted to keep an eye on. And for weeks, everything worked exactly as expected. The footage showed nothing unusual, just normal, everyday things. Me coming home, moving around, sitting in the living room, turning off the lights, and eventually going to sleep. After a while, I stopped thinking about the cameras as something important. They just became background noise, something that was always there, but never really needed attention. That's why the notification didn't feel serious. When I saw it the next morning, it simply said the cameras had gone offline at around 2:13 a.m. and then reconnected about an hour later. At first, I didn't even react. I just assumed it was a temporary issue, something with the internet or the system itself. Nothing that needed a second thought, but for some reason, I still opened the app and checked the footage anyway. Not because I expected to find anything, but because something about that 1 hour gap felt slightly off, in a way I couldn't explain. As I scrolled through the timeline, everything looked completely normal at first, just clips of me moving around the house earlier that night. Nothing unusual, nothing out of place, until the footage reached exactly 2:13 a.m. And then it just stopped. Not gradually, not with a glitch, not even a distortion. It was just gone. Like that entire hour had been erased. For a moment, I just stared at the screen, trying to process what I was looking at, because I knew something about the system that made this impossible to ignore. Even if the internet goes down, the cameras are still supposed to record locally, which meant there shouldn't have been a gap at all. That's when the feeling in my chest changed from mild curiosity to something heavier, something closer to concern. Because now, this wasn't just a technical issue, this was something that didn't follow the way the system was supposed to work. And slowly, I started scrolling forward to the moment the cameras came back online, not expecting anything specific, but already feeling uneasy without knowing why. The first clip after the system came back online started at exactly 3:15 a.m. At first, something about it didn't feel right. The frame didn't look like a normal starting point. It looked like something had already been happening before the recording resumed, like I was watching the middle of something instead of the beginning. And as I looked closer, I noticed something in the living room. A shape, faint at first, hidden in the darkness. But slowly, as my eyes adjusted, it became clearer. There was someone standing there, not moving much, just standing in the middle of my living room, like they had already been there for a while. And the moment I realized that figure didn't belong, Something dropped inside me because it meant one thing. Someone had been inside my house while the cameras were off, and I had no idea. I leaned closer to the screen, trying to make out the details, but the lighting wasn't strong enough to show their face clearly, just their outline, their posture, the way they stood, slightly angled toward the hallway that led to my bedroom. And then, slowly, almost too slowly, they turned their head, and even though I couldn't see everything clearly, I knew they were looking directly at the camera, not by accident, not casually, intentionally, like they knew exactly where it was. My hands started to shake as I switched to the hallway camera, because deep down, I already knew what I was about to see. And when the footage loaded, it confirmed everything. The same figure was walking slowly down the hallway, moving carefully, deliberately, like they were familiar with the layout of the house, like they knew exactly where they were going. And then they stopped right outside my bedroom door and just stood there for nearly a full minute, without knocking, without trying to open it, just standing there in complete silence, watching while I was inside, asleep, completely unaware that someone was only a few feet away from me. And at that point, it didn't even feel like fear anymore. It felt like something deeper, something harder to explain, because it wasn't just about what I was seeing. It was about what had already happened in real life, while I had no idea, and the thought that someone could stand that close for that long without making a single sound made my entire body feel cold. I kept watching, even though part of me didn't want to, because I needed to know what happened next. After standing there for what felt like forever, the figure finally moved. It turned away from my door and slowly walked back down the hallway, step by step, disappearing into the darkness of the living room. And that was it, the last clear movement I could see. Before the footage ended, I immediately checked every other camera, the front door, the back door, the windows. Nothing, no entry, no exit, no sign of how that person got in or how they left. And that's when it got worse, because it meant one thing. They had used that 1 hour when the cameras were offline to move freely without being recorded. And everything I saw after that wasn't the whole story. It was just what they allowed me to see. I called the police, and they searched the entire house, every lock, every window, every possible entry point, but there were no signs of forced entry, nothing broken, nothing disturbed, except faint marks on the hallway floor, right outside my bedroom door, like someone had been standing there for a long time. And even after they left, even after everything was checked and cleared, I couldn't shake the feeling that something about that night didn't make sense. In a way, that couldn't be explained, because the cameras didn't fail randomly. They didn't just stop working for no reason. That 1 hour gap wasn't an accident. It was precise. It was timed, and whoever was inside my house that night knew exactly when they wouldn't be seen.